Alright, so quick recap to bring you up to speed. Mind Flayer puts a worm into Frank's eye. Frank puts his foot through the Mind Flayer's head. He ends up with a full group of people who also have worms in their heads. They all agree to work together to get the worms out, but he keeps sending them on side quests and misadventures. Together, they learn that animals are terrible people. And our pale-skinned rogue with the red eyes and extra long teeth seems to know a lot about vampires. Now, using newfound powers to worm past the goblins to a creepy well, we'll pick up where we left off to see if Frank will actually send his party down the well. And yep, normally at the bottom of a well you'd expect to find water, but in our case we found a bunch of spiders. There were cocoons all over the place, and I can only assume these were the original very thirsty villagers. The spiders in and around the entrance weren't really much of a big deal, but as we kind of explored, things got a little bit hairier. We found these phase spiders, which seemed to have the ability to just kind of teleport around, and that's when we decided to get the heck out of here. Back on the surface, we were once again exploring the blighted village. We ran across these three ogres who, just like the people in the last chapter, worship the Absolute. And using my silver tongue, I was able to convince them that I worked for the Absolute, and they should leave me alone. I found the Bard class as an interesting one because I don't think I've played a single song, but I have just about lied to everybody I've met. It feels like I'm probably missing out on a lot of experience by doing this because I'm talking my way out of most everything I can. But because I'm doing this, I've been able to sneak past a lot of defenses and get to places I'm probably not really supposed to be. Also, it seems like whenever I'm given the chance to pick a powerful spell, I instead pick a spell that's kind of interesting. This teleport spell is a great example of that because I've been able to access a lot of areas I probably wouldn't normally be able to get to. And it was at this point that I started really looking at the quest log to kind of see what I'd unlocked and see what some of my options really were aside from just wandering aimlessly. When I remembered that Shadowheart had told me to go up to these cliffs like when I very first met her, that gave me an idea this was probably a lower level quest and one of the easier things I should attempt. As it started to become commonplace, as soon as I reached this area, there was someone threatening me. In this case, it was this manlet, and I was able to just roll and get past him by scaring him. When I got into the ruins, the area was kind of dead. There wasn't really much going on down there at all. The biggest event came from this room, which was absolutely full of traps. Here, let me show you what happens when you set them all off. Yeah, see, no, that's not good. You really want to try to avoid being on fire in this game. Once I loaded up from my save, I went around the room and just disabled all of the traps manually. I'm not sure if that was the only solution, but it was the only one I could think of in the moment. Got myself an awesome weapon out of it, and ended up with a key to whatever lay ahead. A little bit deeper in, I had another instance of I probably should have made a different move, as I bashed down a door and scared the crap out of somebody, and ended up having to kill them. I mean, I don't feel terrible, they were like grave robbers or something, but they were kind of by themselves in that moment. This led into one of the bigger fights that I've actually come across so far. These guys were really tough and I ended up having to spend a lot of time healing myself up, but I eventually overcame. I also ended up finding the lever that they had failed to find, which gave me access to the hidden part. Something I'm learning about Baldur's Gate that continues to reinforce itself is that you have to kind of go slow and very, very carefully. There's not only a ton of different secrets, but also a lot of different approaches to those secrets, depending on kind of what you have and who you have in your party. There's a lot of stuff that is broken and does feel a little bit disjointed. It's hard to say how much of it is magic and how much of it is early access. But one of the coolest things I can say about it right now is it feels immediately replayable, as if you almost want to do the same thing you just did a different way. Getting past the bandits and into the crypt got us to the point where we were able to get to this guy. Now you're probably thinking, oh, he's a boss and he's gonna kill you, but no, he didn't actually. He introduces himself, he says his name is Withers, and he's gonna hang out in my camp. And I don't really seem to have much of a choice in the matter, so with everything here seemingly completed, we head back to the surface. Besides, we had a lot left to do in the druid area. You might remember, we still have worms in our heads. When we got close to the druids, we saw that the devil people and the druid people were fighting, and it was pretty heated. One of them turned into a bear, it got really ugly. There's like a kidnapped girl or something going on. And you might have expected I had to roll the dice to get past these guys, but they actually recognized me as the guy that cleared the gate of the goblins earlier, chapter 2. Anyway, they send me to go see Kaga, who is some kind of leader. Now, not only do I find Kaga, but I also find the little girl at the same time. This is the little devil girl that everyone's freaking out about. There's a snake involved here that seems to have some kind of authority. This little girl tried to steal some kind of idol or something, so they want her dead. But I was able to use my storytelling ability combined with persuasion to somehow convince them that this is not the right thing to do. This section right here, I felt like I made all the right moves. Everything I clicked on made everyone approve of me, everyone got away scot-free, it was great. And right in the next room was the druid healer I'd been looking for. Well, kind of. I was told about a druid healer named Halson who could take the mind worms out, and this is Nettie, who was his assistant because he's like missing or something. So we had to choose whether or not to try to be honest with Nettie, because you don't want to scare somebody off and say, hey, I might turn into a mind flayer. They might just kill you. In this case, though, I did gamble. I was very honest and basically just explained what happened. She said to follow her. So we followed her into the lab. Everything seemed really promising, until she started acting a little bit shifty with this plant she was holding. The cinematic gave me an indicator that something was off, and I was thinking for a moment I was going to have to stomp this druid into the ground. She ends up admitting that she has no way to cure you. She was just worried you were going to turn into a mind flayer and kill everybody, and what she actually has is poison. And she wants you to swear that you're going to drink it if you start to turn into a mind flayer. So of course I told her, yeah, that's fine, I'll drink the poison, whatever. Now, Nettie would have been a complete waste of time except for a couple of things. She did let you know where Halson's being held. Apparently some goblins got him, so she lets you know if you rescue him, he might be able to actually help. And then she brings attention to something important. You aren't turning into a mind flayer, at least not yet. Normally, you would have. It normally only takes a few days, but at this point you've camped in the game a few times, your powers are getting stronger, but you haven't actually become a mind flayer. So something is different. Of course, after accepting the quest to find Halson, we had to make our way out of the druid area. And I came across this little guy who seems to be working in league with those guys who picked my pockets in Chapter 2. So we flay his mind, and he's able to actually open up the vault into this hideout. I have no idea how much they even stole from me, but it's like the principle of the thing. Nobody steals from Frank the Bard. So we make it down there, and it's kids. It's literally just kids. A couple of pickpockets basically working for a slightly older child. It doesn't take much effort at all to get the money back, but then this girl tries to conscript us to steal for her. And the thing she wants to steal is the idol from the druids, and I don't even need that kind of smoke right now. So I bail, I leave her to her little rascals, and we head back to the overworld. Somewhere along the line I'd picked up some kind of rumor about a cellar that had a bunch of valuables in it, so we head in that direction. The cellar itself had a couple of basic items, but there was also a visible tunnel behind a bookcase that seemed impossible to move. It was a little frustrating because it was obvious that something needed to trigger it, but we had to tear apart the entire basement in order to find it. We accidentally woke up some corpses, and ended up in an unexpected fight. Afterward, though, as we were digging through the loot in the area around us, we found a journal that contained some information about a necromancer and a secret book. Deeper in the cave, we came across this magic mirror, which was guarding the secret laboratory of that old necromancer. And this one's a little hard to believe, but I convinced the mirror that I was going to destroy it, and it scared it enough to open. Inside was another puzzle I know I did completely the wrong way. There's traps all over the place, there's this gate that you have to like melt with acid, and I just teleported through it, grabbed the book, and left. This spell continues to be amazing for this kind of thing. At this point in the game, Gale the Wizard has stolen more valuable stuff than my rogue ever has. When I examine it though, I found out that this book, I can't even open it yet. It's got some kind of special magical lock, and I have to figure that one out as well. And then I have to decide if I open it, if I do figure it out, because the warning is that the book will make whoever reads it go mad. Leaving the crypt, we decided to make camp. Everyone was tired, spells needed to be refreshed. What we didn't expect was for a random stranger to wander into the camp. He originally introduces himself as Raphael, and then suddenly decides to whisk me away to some weird mansion with a bunch of food. And if that's not weird enough, he tells me he can take the worm out of my head because apparently he's the devil. Or like a devil, because I guess I'm a devil too, so I don't really know how this conversation was supposed to go if I didn't have a devil character, but it was a little bit more awkward since we're kind of both the same race. But in a classic sense, he wants to do a straight soul swap. I mean, he wants to take the mind worm out of my head in exchange for, my eternal soul. I don't know that I have one, being a devilkin and all, but I decided to turn him down. Didn't think it was the greatest idea at the time. Plus, the worm is kind of useful. Now earlier, Nettie had made note that I'm not actually turning into a mind flayer as expected. This guy just says, I'm lucky, it's gonna happen soon, he can stop it when I'm ready, so he's just gonna be there when I'm ready. Now, just about everybody in this party is really difficult to get along with. They all have very distinct personalities, but Shadowheart gives me the third degree about this devil character, and I seem to do okay. Still, though, at this point, we haven't rested. The day is getting very long, and I decide it is finally time to nap.
You don't sleep well, flitting between dreams and nightmares. Maybe you wake up because you know something is wrong, or maybe you just get lucky.
Uh-oh. Guess you better stay tuned for chapter 4.
Shit.